Hola a todos. How you doing? Happy Ash Wednesday. If you're wondering what this black cross is on my head, it's Ash Wednesday. Chapter 8 is relatively straightforward. I think it's a more approachable chapter than some of the other chapters that we've had, and we're going to be talking about personal characteristics and sales aptitude as a sales manager, stuff we need to think about when we're selecting salespeople. So, why do we care so much about the selection process when it comes to salespeople? Well, it's because the turnover process is so ridiculously costly. If you think about the costs with regards to either healthcare or deferred commissions or separation costs between you and a previous salesperson, how much the replacement costs are, particularly training and opportunity costs of when you don't have a salesperson in the field because you're still trying to select someone and you're trying to train them. And then even then, and we're going to see in a couple slides from now, a salesperson doesn't hit his or her stride in the first month, 2, 3 of them starting their new position. So the whole idea of this war on turnover is to minimize the excessive cost that turnover can. Turnover is a topic, as you know from my Super Topic Talk, is near and dear to my heart, something that I like to study. So, some, broadly speaking, successful determinants of sales force performance. I agree very much with self-confidence. I agree very much with decisiveness. I agreed very much with the need for achievement. I'm not sure about this strong ego one, though. And what's interesting is we're going to see some statistics in a couple slides, and some of these things aren't even as high as you would think they would be. So from the sales management's perspective, we looked at aptitude in the recruitment and selection policies. We look at characteristics in the recruitment and selection policies or process. Skill level, we look at that in training and supervision. Role perceptions, this is training and account supervision, management supervision. Motivation is compensation and rewards. And finally, org and environmental factors. This is Salesforce management, territory design, managing marketing programs, broadly speaking. So, some of the factors that cause differences overall in sales performance, well, we're not getting away from this. How many times have we seen this in various chapters? Role conflict and role ambiguity. Your role perceptions and how comfortable you feel with them. Your skill level. And then finally, your motivation. Okay? This is a very big deal. We're going to see in a second. This is a very big deal. We're going to see in a second. So, here's back to the opening vignette of the chapter where we talk about, there's a decent chance in a 1 to 5 year period that any salesperson will either quit or be fired. I mean, it's at least 50-50. And the problem is that if you're spending between $7,000 and $100,000 annually to train a new recruit, and you invest all this time and money into someone, you have to be really careful who you're recruiting, because the longer someone stays with you, the less costs you have to worry about when that person leaves. So, successful salespeople, they tend to have a glass as half full mentality, strong organizational skills, have some ambition, be persuasive, both verbal and nonverbal communication skills. Someone should remind me that the next round of Super Topic Talks to do nonverbal. General sales experience, previous sales experience is also very helpful. Okay. I'm very happy this chapter actually took a little bit of a stab towards thinking beyond the US-centric culture. The book every so often does that, not as much as we would like. As I've said many times, this book tends to be more U.S. North American centric. But here you have two countries, the U.S. and Germany, and even though these are both Western countries with very similar interests, you can see the differences. Oops. Where Germany tends to be more formal, hierarchical, titles are very important, relationships are always formal, work and play is never mixed, dress is always formal, and these salespeople tend to be more multilingual. Where the U.S. is a lot more casual, a lot less hierarchical, a lot more independent, mixing work and play, very casual, and chances are not bilingual. Alright, now I'm going to breeze through these pretty quick. Not only are they in the text, but we have slides to back them up. Okay. Age, gender, and physical appearance is less than 5%. What does less than 5% mean? That means overall, age is less than 5 of the overall explanation of someone's performance. Gender is less than 5% of the overall explanation of someone's performance. But personal history and family background is almost 21%. That's a very high number. So if you think about 100% explanation of how someone performs, oh, bummer. 21% is personal history and family background. Wow. Education, not that much. Sales experience, not that much. We see some other things, some higher numbers again. Your family status. Chances are this impacts from a motivational perspective. If you are married and you have kids and you have mortgages and you have payments, you might be a little bit more motivated. Your financial status kind of plays into that. I don't think these are that, these kind of overlap a little bit. Some other things that I'm surprised, intelligence seems kind of low. Cognitive abilities, which is, I thought this would be higher. I really thought verbal intelligence would be higher. We keep talking about verbal and nonverbal communication being important, but how important it can be if it's less than 5%, right? A little bit of surprising. Some of these personal characteristics, not a lot much here. Very surprised here by need for achievement, intrinsic motivation, that this is also that low. Yeah. We see vocational skills here, no problem. If you have training in the area or if you're more familiar with this industry, then yes, this will impact. Sales presentation skills, yeah, okay, almost 5%. That's pretty good. Interpersonal, general management, and vocational and esteem. Now the slides from here, let me scroll down a little bit. A little too far. These kind of dive into the statistics with a little bit more detail. Right? But before we get to that, there is a little bit of a vignette talking about men and women sales people. My super topic talk specifically talked about turnover, but here this is based on 2 different studies, and there's a footnote in the text. There's clearly a difference in pay across men and women. There's clearly a difference in compensation, responding in number of years in sales and marketing. And this needs to be fixed. I don't have a strong statistical explanation for this. I have some hypotheticals, and it's really my job to go out and find more data on this particular thing. But it could be the difference between which industries the women are working and which industries the men are working. It could be the case that men and women in the same industry are getting paid, but the title across industries. Let's say, I'm going to make something up, aerospace. Let's pretend that aerospace is almost all men, and the VPs of sales and marketing in the aerospace industry tend to get a significantly higher salary. And maybe VPs of sales and marketing are consumer products like Procter & Gamble, and this is the average salary in there. It just happens to be that there's more women working in that area than men. That might explain some of this, but that's not really a great explanation. It's hypothetical at best. We do see some cultural diversity and some changing attitudes. In addition to women, we're starting to see more minority salespeople work their way through, and especially as we're shifting away from the country club mentality, the always be closing mentality, the old boys network mentality, and it's more about relationship building. Well, guess what? We're seeing more people come into the sales force, particular women, particular minorities, that are being attracted to new school selling. Now some of the differences here. These were the exhibits earlier. So we're talking about, physical appearance and image are important, but in and of themselves, these do not explain all that much. And what's hard is they're really difficult to implement, and the data doesn't see that there's all that much of a difference. Now, when we talk about technology, I'm going to skip this, but just so you know that a lot of salespeople do try to maintain a positive image within social in case someone's looking them up for a potential job, particularly on LinkedIn. We see education is a big deal. 2/3 of all salespeople have a college degree. But life experience provide a lot of context when you're dealing with customers. When we talk about background and experience, we see that 20% of the variance of performance, 20 to 21%, is personal history, family background. This is one of the best predictors. Education is not as important, but family backgrounds such as your mother or father was in sales, or your mother and father were very entrepreneurial, or your mother and father were very networked kind of thing. And you kind of grew up experiencing this through osmosis, family activities. When we talked about aptitude, it's less than 5, but this is usually something that we train for. What I do like about this statistic is I've been telling people for a very long time that, salespeople are not born. Salespeople learn, and salespeople are trained. Yeah, there's some people that have a natural ability for it, but some of the ones that don't have a natural ability for it, you can learn how to be a good salesperson. It's not something of like you either got it or you don't got it. I don't believe in that. When we talk about personality variables, we do see some extroversion is positively related to retail and call sale, when you have a lot of interactivity with people. Introversion is positively related to B2B sales. And you may find this a little odd, but introverts might listen more. They might be helpful more. They might be more new school where, the always be closing extrovert in the past might have talked themselves out of a few sales. All right, vocational skills. 9% is pretty high there, as we said before. Presentation skills are lower, but your vocation, your background, what you've done, you're an engineer, and you have a medical background such as biology or chemistry, and then you go into pharmaceutical sales. Well, that's a big deal. General management's also kind of high, So, I think this has more to do with being able to think strategically and being able to think long term and being able to organize. Some characteristics of salespeople who win trust. How do we know someone is trustworthy? Well, they're incredibly knowledgeable. They really understand the business and the industry. They're very reliable. They listen and can see things from someone else's perspective, right? Likeable. Very good positive attitude. They listen. Intelligent. They ask relevant, good questions. Have a little bit of confidence. And hopefully you know how to dress yourself. Hopefully. So, now, I know this is trades. The chapter tries to break these up by different types of selling within trade, such as a B2B, missionary, such as missionary is more trying to find first-time buyers. Technical, more engineering. New business selling is very similar to missionary, and if you see the characteristics are similar: persistence, persuasiveness, youth, stamina. Less important characteristics. This is, this has to be really everywhere. This has to be everywhere. I have a hard time trying to tell you that a salesperson should not be empathetic. That should not be empathetic. And then finally, we wrap up the chapter, and to me this is very confusing, being a pyramid type thing. But, we're starting here. We begin, this is broadly speaking our wrap up for the whole chapter. What does all this mean for us as sales managers? Well, it all begins with the recruiting and selection process. You have to do a good job here, otherwise you're going to increase costs to your firm and the balance sheet, because you're going to have to train a lot more, and you're going to lose opportunity costs in the field when you lose a salesperson. Think about what Valley Wine was going through vis-a-vis our case. So then we develop new recruits, and we do lots of performance evaluation to see where they need help or where they need extra training or how they should be rewarded. Then finally we do some analyzing tasks and activities. Can't believe I just did that. File, edit, undo, move object. That's our chapter 8. I look forward to seeing your questions. I saw a number of emails come in the last 24 hours. I'll get to that within the next day, okay? Thanks.